Hello and welcome back to my Arendelle Speedway toy box, which I'm building in preparation for Friday's episode of Toy Box Tutorials. I've got Elsa with me today, and we're going to finish the build exercise for this toy box. We're going to begin over here with the castle walls around this arena. So we're going to use the Frozen Gatehouse out of Building Sets Group 7, and we're going to put one on either side. And I'll flip them around because they do look a little bit different on either side with the snow and everything. And then we're going to put the walls around that. So let me pull up my screenshots here to make sure I get these right. And we're going to line it up with the wall of the gatehouse, not the edge of the terrain. We're going to put one on either side. And then we'll put a tower next to that. And this is going to enclose the area here. That's kind of the point of this. This one we're going to go ahead and sit up here right on the edge of the wall there. And both sides of this are pretty much the same. So I don't think we need to flip it around. Put another tower there. And then two walls and another tower. Like that. Okay. Followed by another tower. And now we're going to basically mirror what's on the other side. Like that. Alright, and then we can put the roof pieces on. And we'll start here at the gatehouse. And I'm going to flip it around just so I'm consistent with my screenshots here. That one's going to sit on there like that. This one will sit over here, and I'm going to flip it around because the snow is a little different on either side. And that helps break up the repetitiveness. And then we'll alternate here. Once again to kind of break it up. Like that. And then on this side, and I'm not trying to recreate Arendelle. I've already done that in a different toy box. My purpose in this one is just to kind of use the snow theme here and try to do something a little bit different, but still have it feel like Arendelle. And you'll notice in the Toy Box Speedway game, it's the same sort of thing. When you're racing on the racetrack there in Toy Box Speedway, it does not look like Arendelle there either. That's not the purpose, I believe, that they had. They just wanted to create something that looked like Arendelle without actually duplicating it precisely. And this will be the most time-consuming part of this, aside from the trees. Alright, so there is the walls around the arena. And now back in here, we're going to put the castle. So we're going to put this right down on the ground. I want to back it right up as close as I can get to that back wall. And I want to line up the tower. Try to center it on the opening over there between the gatehouses. And that means this is going to sit in there like that. Something like that. Let me make sure I've got this where I want it. Yeah. So again, the tower is lined up between the two gatehouses. And then down here we have the fountain. So I want to put a couple of these out front. And I can't find my screen grab for that. That's pretty crazy. Well, this will do pretty close. Actually, I know I've got another. There it is. All right. So this is going to sit. I'm looking at the plume for the water, and that's going to sit about like that. And I think that's actually the orientation that I had. And we're going to set this back just a little bit, like that. The next one's going to sit about the same spot on the other side, after the second post there. So about right there. And just so it's not too repetitive, let's flip this around a little bit. There we go. So there's our two fountains. All right, for the entrance into here, I'd like to put some flags in. And we have these nice frozen castle flags. I really like those. So we'll put the first one. Sorry for that little delay. I was just pulling up my screenshot. We're going to sit this one in here like this, and we want to make sure the orientation of these is about the same. With the little flags blowing in the wind, they should all be blowing in the same direction. And so that's kind of our plan there. And then we want to evenly space these. Or try to. And I think just to mix it up, we'll put this one down here like that. Alright, so that kind of creates a nice little entrance and helps mark the ramp. And then we're going to put a bunch of buildings in around here. And you're going to find these right here, these two Arendelle houses. And I'm going to place a bunch of these around here. So this one we're going to sit back here kind of like this. Not right up against there, but fairly close. I guess probably like that. We can rotate these so they're not so repetitive. You want to mix them up, of course. So we'll put this one over here, maybe like that. And then another one over here like this. And I won't place all of these. You'll see how I place them when I'm done. But we're going to place some over there. We're going to place some over here. We're going to put some on the other side of the road here, because we need to line this side of the road so the players know where to go. And on this side, we're going to use this little church. And we're going to put the steeple in the back, because the doors are on this side. I want to kind of line it up with the middle of that ramp. And the left edge of this should line up about like that. Because I'm looking at the front of this, and I kind of want it to line up with the edge of that cave down there. And then I'll put some houses on either side of this, and I won't place all of those. You can see how I positioned them when I put the trees in a little bit later. Okay, up here, we're going to put Elsa's ice castle. And so you'll find that under the set pieces. That's going to sit up here about like that. And I want to place this and get up here. My screenshot. Okay. So I want to place this so that the tower is kind of lined up. I might move this over, but I want it lined up with the middle of the thing there. I think it was actually there in the right spot a moment ago. Unfortunately, it's off center from the center of the bounding box there. I think that looks pretty good. So as you're coming up the tunnel here, I kind of want her castle to be centered right where you're at. And it looks like it is, so I like that. Alright, around this end is going to be Oaken's Trading Center, but I'm going to wait and put that in a moment. Because I got to put the trees around that. And then over here is the Snowy Mountain. And you find that in Building Sets Group 7. Assuming, of course, you've unlocked all these pieces from the Toy Box Speedway game. And we're going to line this up as close as we can get with that block. I think that's pretty decent. I've actually got this a little bit out like that. And the edge of this looks like it sits about right there. So that's pretty good. So that just gives you something really cool to look at as you're driving along the top of this. And when you come off the cliff, you can drive underneath. And that's pretty cool. And then you get to the frozen water. And we got to direct the player over that way. So what we're going to do here is put down some frozen ships. Put these down, and I'm going to use the ships to kind of guide the player where I want them to go. So we'll put this one right up on the edge of the terrain, which is kind of lined up right with the edge of that cave. And we'll put it in here about like that. And then the next one, I'm going to use the orientation of the ship to kind of help subtly tell them they need to go that way. So that's kind of why I'm orienting this one the way I am. And we'll put this out here about like that. Try to orient that mast about the way you see it there. And we're going to use a few of these across here to help guide the player where they need to go. Put this one out a little bit closer to the edge. You don't want these lined up in a straight line across here. And the last one, about like that. Kind of want to give them, push them in that direction. And then I could use this one over here like this to kind of guide them again, that they need to go in that direction. But I'm actually going to flip it this way just for something a little bit different. Excuse me. I don't know if you could heard that, but I burped. All right, and then we'll put one more just to kind of break up this long flat area over here. I want to get it as close as I can. And we'll position this about like that. So now when you come out of that tunnel, that kind of guides the player to go that way. All right, with that, I think we're pretty much done except for the trees. So I'm going to do that offline because you don't need to see me place each and every plant cluster. That would be a long, boring video. When I'm done, I'll come back and show you the final result, and then we'll wrap up this video. All right, I've placed all of the plant clusters, and I'll give you a quick flyover to show you which ones I used and where I placed them. And if you want to recreate this toy box on your own system, you can pause this video along the way and copy what you see in my video. So we're going to start back here on this terrain block, and you can see the plant clusters that I have used. And once again, if let's see, if we pick this one up for example, these are the plant clusters that are at the start of the plants drawer. So you can see which ones I've used and where I've placed them. And if you don't get the placement of these exactly the same as mine, with the same orientations and all that, that's okay. It's not that critical. And I'm just going to fly along the back edge of the toy box here, show you what I've placed. And this gets us up to the cliff. And I'm over here with respect to the castle. I'm on this corner of the toy box. And you can kind of look at the terrain seams to see where I've placed things, the cliffs, and some of the other objects that are around. The shadows will help give you a clue too. In this little area back here, we're going to be building a reindeer race eventually. All right, let me zoom up here. The terrain seam is right here, so that should give you an idea of where I am and what objects are here. And again, if the placement of these isn't exactly the same as mine, that's okay. I've also placed this stable here. This is from Building Sets Group 6. It's part of the Dunbrock building pieces that you get from the 2.0 Brave Forest Siege game. A couple of flags I've placed here. You can see where those are in the drawers. And then I've got just a bunch of these trees over here. And I'm going to go this way around the toy box. We'll go counterclockwise. So you can see the buildings that I've placed over here and how I've positioned them. Same with those. And again, observe the terrain seams there. Hopefully you can see those on your video. And then I got plants right up behind these buildings here. All right, so that's it for the village. And then over this way, we'll do the main floor here first. Try to give you a good look at those large trees so you can see how the sprigs are oriented there. Those little sprigs on the bottom. These things here. And there's nothing else along there. And then over here this way, you can see this kind of forms a little tunnel here. These pieces, you may have to style these first before you can fit these in here. Or maybe not. You might have to experiment with that. But I'm styling all of mine at the end so you know which of the pieces from the plant drawer that I used. Alright, and then on this side, that the terrain seams down there should help you with the placement of those. And again, we got plants going underneath the tunnel. Once you place that mountain, you can place those plants. And it won't cause a problem with the collision box. And I just packed a bunch of these trees in there. Over on this end of the mountain, looking back with the castle over there, you can see where I've placed these plants along here. These are along the shore. And then around the other side of the wall, I put a few more along here than the opposite side because the player will be driving through here. So I wanted there to be a few more trees here. And then one of the things you'll notice in the race is it's not very obvious to the player when to turn to go down this street. And so one of the things you could do to help them out is you could come up to the racetrack pieces, and if we go left, we have these curve pieces. You could grab the largest of these and kind of drop this in here. You'll have to put that tree in afterward, but this might help. You could put it in like that. That might help guide the player where they need to go. And then of course those trees that are back there, you'll have to fit those into place. You won't be able to put some of these in there, but it's up to you. I built this so I kind of know when that street's coming up, but as you're racing this, it may not be too obvious, or some of your guests might not be obvious to them, so that could help. And then these are on the edge of the toy box over here. And I put a few out here like this piece and this piece, just to kind of give you some obstacles to potentially steer around without blocking the AI cars. And then we get into that corner. Let me give you a look at it from this side. Because with those big trees in the way, you may not have been able to see those shorter pieces. Alright, so that is it for the main floor. Let's head up to the top now. So we've got a couple of pieces right here, kind of hiding the seams. And then going along the edges of the canyon. These pieces kind of help tell the player they need to be going that way, just in case they might be tempted to try to go left or right. They shouldn't be, but it just helps reinforce the idea that they need to go the other way. Alright, so those line there, and then up top, up here, I've got some pieces around the castle, just so that the castle doesn't look like it's sitting up here all by itself. Kind of gives the illusion when you're down below that the world goes on past what you see beyond the edge of this cliff. Alright, and then we come over here along the edge, and I didn't cover up this edge because we have kind of this nice edge here, and we got a beautiful sky dome, so might as well enjoy it as you come through here. Then we get down to this end, and I've got Oaken's building. And again, that's from Building Sets Group 7. Some trees sitting along here. And they're kind of forming a curve to guide the player toward the bridge. And then over on this side, let me zoom out just a little bit. You can kind of see how I've placed those to create a bit of a curve for the player. And I've had these protrude outward a little bit so that when you come around this corner, it's not just a straight shot down that way. You have to go off to the left a little bit and then come around this bend. So that's the purpose of those trees. Alright, and then going across the bridge on the other side. I'll give you another look from this angle and from this angle. And this is actually all empty back here because you don't really need anything. Player's not going to see much over this way. They're not going to have time to look. But if you want to develop this toy box further, create a little climbing adventure here and so on, then you'll probably want to put a few trees and things up here so it doesn't look so barren. You'll probably want to fill in the gaps up here with some terrain and some edges, canyon edges. Put a couple of blocks in here to fill this gap and maybe provide some kind of way to get up here onto this level for the player so they can get up into the castle. Alright, so that is it for the tree placements. And so we'll go ahead and style these now. And these are going to use the frozen terrain, and I'm going to theme all. We'll wait for a moment to do its thing. And there we go. There is our toy box. And I wonder if it'll let me put Elsa up here on this balcony. That would be cool. There we go. Nice. So now she can overlook the whole toy box from up here. And with that, the build exercise for this toy box is done. Now I can focus on the tutorials for the remaining racing toys. I'll be back on Friday with the official tutorial to show you how to build the race itself. Until then, I want to thank you for watching and remind you that if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet and you like Disney Infinity, be sure to subscribe so you can follow my toy box projects. I'll continue building this toy box on Fridays, and starting next week I'll be returning to my Age of Ultron series, so you won't want to miss that either. Take care.